In this presentation, I'm not trying to attack feminism or to defend it blindly, but I'm looking at it from cultural studies and in the cultural discourse, which means I look at feminism as a cultural concept and not just a political movement. So I think culture shape how we think and how we love, how we marry, and how we even see like the genders, men and women. So feminism didn't just change history, it didn't just change laws, it also changed meanings, it changed symbols, and it changed everyday lives from every individual personal life. So we usually talk about feminism as waves, but I think each wave is a cultural moment, and it is also shaped by ideology, economy, wars, like the first wave and the second war, and also by social media and media, like the second wave and today waves. They are shaped by the fourth wave and the second wave. So my goal here is to show how feminism developed, how it interacted with capitalism and from the Marxism theory, and how it also transformed the family, and how it also created reactions and alternatives like the red pill, black pill, and MGTOW. We will be discussing this more further. Cultural studies perspective is cultural studies teach us that culture is not simple and neutral, as Stewart Hall say. So culture is a site of struggle over meaning. So when we talk about gender, family, we're not talking about natural things. We're talking about ideas that are produced and normalized. So from this view, feminism is not just activism; it is a discourse. It tells us how to understand reality. It tells women who they are and tells men what they represent. So, the media, education, law, and language all help to separate these ideas. So instead of asking is feminism in cultural studies, so instead of asking is feminism right or wrong, cultural studies believe that we should be asking who benefit from this discourse, and what value does it promote, and what traditions does it weaken. So I think this framework is important because it allows us to see feminism as both a resistance and power. At some point, resistance can become toxic, can become dominantly toxic, and when that happens, it can silence the other groups. Pre-feminism, feminist cultural context, industrial capitalism reshaped everyday life. So before feminism, society was already changing. Industrial capitalism separated life into two spaces. Men were linked to production and public work, and women were linked to do the home duty and for the reproduction. And this wasn't only biological; it was cultural. So the family worked like a stabilizer. It gave people identity and structure, and of course this system had injustice. Women had fewer rights and little legal power, but culturally the family was seen as necessary for social order. At the same time, liberal thinkers were thinking about individual rights, and social thinkers were talking about exploitation. And so feminism didn't come from nowhere. It came from a mix of economic change and ideological critics, and certain stuff that happened in history that changed everything, especially the World War, both of them. Marxism and feminism. Marxism actually inspired feminism, and it influenced how feminists thinks. So Marxism teaches that society is structured by power and dominance, and it focused on class labor and exploitation. Later, feminist thinkers borrowed this logic, and they instead of in the beginning they wanted to do a class oppression, fighting class oppression. So they talked only about gender oppression, and instead of talking about the factories, they only talked about the family. So in the beginning they had to be talking about equality, but if you think about it deeply, equality with who? Are you talking about equality with a poor man, or equality with a rich man, or a noble? So this is where the complexity and the issue that feminism had and still have. So the family became seen as a place of as a place where ideology is reproduced. Marriage was no longer cooperation. It became dominant. So for them, they believed that to destroy this oppression, they had to destroy the nuclear family, and that was directed in the second wave of feminism. They literally been saying they should destroy the nuclear family, and women should look for their happiness, not. Being a traditional woman is a suppression. So I think this shift is very important culturally, because once you see the relationship only through power, trust disappeared, love became political, parenthood became labor, and everything became toxic. The first wave of feminism, it actually started in the late of the 18th century, and it was achieved in the mid of the 20th century. So the first wave of feminism was mostly was mostly only a reformation. So it wanted inclusion and not a revolution. So women wanted to vote on property and access to education. Culturally, this was about recognition, being seen as a full subject in society. This wave didn't attack the family. Many first wave feminists believed that believed in marriage and motherhood. They just wanted legal dignity. So from cultural studies view, suffrage was the symbol of the first wave, and voting meant just visibility in the public and society. So it meant women were no longer invisible citizens. So I think the first wave was relatively stable because it didn't completely break the social norms. It only wanted an inclusion, and it worked mostly because it was ethical. And that's why I think it gained support. World War I and World War II changed everything. Men went to war and women went to factory. Culture had to adapt fast. Media started showing women as workers, not just mothers. This shift proved that gender roles were not fixed after the wars. It became impossible to argue that women were naturally incapable of public work. So first wave demands suddenly started making sense, and I think without wars, suffrage would have taken much longer, and the feminism first wave wouldn't achieve what they did achieve rapidly. So crisis would actually crisis accelerate ideology, wars break tradition, and humanism rises. So, but after the wars, society tries to go back to normal. That tension will never disappear. So feminism grew inside that unresolved contradiction, which made society go to the second wave, which started to go wild and became more toxic. And in the West, many believe that the second wave actually the reason of the destruction of their society. Political economy and institutional support. So this part is controversial but important. Capitalism needed labor, and after the wars, economy expanded. One income was not enough anymore. So large foundations, including Rockefeller, founded education, social science, and workforce integration for women. Officially, this was about empowerment. Critics argue it also served economic needs, and others believe that it is not simple. It has a deeper and a hidden meaning. And from a cultural studies view, this is about political economy. Ideology and economy work together. Feminism became institutional. It entered university, NGOs, and I'm not saying feminism was created by elite, but I'm saying it was absorbed by the system. And once a movement is absorbed, it changes its meaning and definition of it. Second wave feminism as a cultural critic. So the second wave went so much deeper. It didn't just want rights. It wanted to change everyday life. The slogan, "The personal is political," says everything. And sex, family, housework, and emotions became political issues. Gender roles were exposed as social construction. Culturally, this was revolutionary, but it was also destructive to society because once a private life became ideological, nothing feels neutral anymore. And I think the second wave broke most societies, especially most societies in the West. But it also broke the trust between men and women, and everything became a struggle. And I will one of the quotes that that make everyone understand the second wave more is that this is coming from Linda Gordon. She was one of the main influencers in feminism back then in the second wave. She said that the nuclear family must be destroyed and people must find better ways of living together wherever it is ultimate meaning. The breakup of families now is an objectively revolutionary process. No woman should have to deny herself any opportunity because of her special responsibilities to her family and children. Families will be finally destroyed only when a revolutionary social and economical organization permits people's need for love and security to be met in ways that do not impose division of labor or any external roles. Cultural consequences for marriage. So over time, marriage changed a lot. Before, marriage was about duty and staying together. Even things were hard, people expected problems and work through them. But slowly, marriage became about personal happiness and self-fulfillment. Feeling good became more important than commitment. When happiness goes down, people start doubting life and the relationship, and it leads to divorce. And divorce, actually, in today perspective, it mostly feels normal, and sometimes people prefer it than stay in marriage, especially because of the legal benefit of it, like for women. And when they marry a rich man, they can easily like divorce him and get half of his money. So movie series, and social media support this idea, showing freedom as a success and sacrifice as a failure. From a cultural point of view, this changed how people trust marriage. Many men now see marriage as unstable and risky, especially because of the legal and financial consequences. As a result, marriage lost its role as a strong social foundation, and the relationships became more temporarily fragile and conditional, and society is divided more than any time before. The third wave of feminism and identity culture. The third wave of feminism focused more on individual than society as a whole, and it emphasizes personal choice, identity, and self-expression. Every experience became valid, and there were fewer shared rules. Sexual freedom was often presented as empowerment in all situations, especially for women, like the sexual revolution. And from a cultural studies view, this increase of individualism, feminism stopped asking big questions about what kind of society we want to build, and focused more on personal feelings and personal truth. I think this reflects larger culturally shift where truth became relative and identity became flexible. This gave people freedom, but it also made things unstable, especially when it came to relationships, family, and long-term commitment. And to be fair, like freedom, there is no freedom without management. The fourth wave of feminism and digital culture. The fourth wave of feminism mainly exists on social media, where debates happen every day, and language became more extremely important. Words are treated as harmful, and representation is seen as power. Masculinity is often shown as dangerous, while women are often shown mainly as victims. Social media rewards anger, fast judgment, and strong opinions instead of calm discussions. From a cultural point of view, this creates division. Men and women stop listening to each other, and many men feel afraid to speak because they fear being judged or cancelled. And actually, this created just an alternative of feminism, which is red pill. Red pill today is, I think, is the biggest movement between men, especially the young generation. They know the psychology, like in the red pill, like they teach men the psychology of women, and They teach them even dark psychology and toxicity, which actually feminism teach also women. And this only lead to destruction of society, and this just creates resentment and more tension between both genders. And the only way to stop this is to, like, for both men and women, like to try to understand each other more. But actually, it should be coming from the feminism perspective, because feminism actually empower hatred, and it actually challenged men. So even in our human nature, men don't like to be challenged, and in our nature we are these supporters, and we are the protectors and providers and everything. Feminism is against all this. So Theodore Adorno and feminism and mass culture. So Theodore Adorno warned that in modern capitalism, even resistance can become a product. Ideas that start as a rebellion can be turned into trends and sold back to people. From this perspective, feminism is losing critical power when it comes to mainstream empowerment, joined into slogans, branding, and social media image. Being liberated became something you show instead of something you deeply live and believe in. Feminist messages are everywhere, but often without a deep reflection. Theodore Adorno would argue that when feminism became a part of mass culture, it stopped challenging the system and started serving it. So freedom became symbolic rather than real, and women became a product. So reactionary masculine subcultures, we have the MGTOW and the Red Pill and the Black Pill. And this movement did not appear randomly. They appeared as a reaction to modern culture and gender war. They formed in a response to feminism dominance in media, in education, in public discussions, in society in general. This movement also talk about power and individuality, but from the male point of view, and influencing men to have more power, and to be more healthy, and to start developing themselves, and encourage men to be more independent, and that society is against them. So marriage is seen as a dangerous emotional investment, and for the MGTOW, they actually choose to withdraw from this proposal. And for Red Pill, they are still believing in marriage, but they are believing in the traditional one. So from a cultural studies perspective, these movements are not a cause of the crisis, but they are just symptoms of deeper problem. Society is in chaos. When traditional roles disappear and no stable new roles replace them, people feel disconnected from society. And these movements, they are just a reaction to a bigger fear and confusion more than strength or confidence. They are just like a response to a trauma and to a society that is trying to destroy masculinity, especially having some words, toxic masculinity, like they are all over the internet, especially like what the modern generation are seeing. Young men, they are seeing females, when a man being a man, they call him toxic masculine or something like this.